So to start with, I'm just going to show you, there's obviously lots and lots of layers. So you've got your 5 3/4 by 4 card base, and then there was a 11 by 4 3/4. That's going to make your first easel. And then you've got a card layer with 3 3/4 by 5 1/2, and then your paper layer. Now I have just put together a multicolored one here so that it's really, really clear what I'm doing with each layer, and I'm not using all the same color cards so that you can see. So this is my card base, which is the 5 3/4 by 4. And then you've got your first piece, which is your 11-inch piece. That is scored at 5 1/2 and 8 1/4. So if you haven't done that, we'll do that now. So you're going to get your 4 3/4 piece, and we're going to score at 5 1/2, which is dead center, and 8 1/4, which is basically half again of that card front. Okay, so that's the first thing that you're going to have to do. So then, if I use the my mock-up, we're going to fold it in half, and then we'll fold that in half again, like a mountain fold, to create the easel. Okay, and I'm just going to do it with my proper piece that I'm going to be using to make my card. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your card base, and we're going to glue this easel card on, so it's going to be centered and there's going to be a border all the way around. Okay, so that's going to be the first bit, and I'm just going to show you that when it's glued on, this front flap is free to move, and so you'll be gluing it with just the flat piece that hasn't got any scoring on it. Okay, so I'm going to just do that with my proper one. And there's a lot of triple easels that you can make. There's loads online and stuff like that. But I actually made this one from scratch. And the reason I did that was because on all the other ones that I've seen, when you put the easel card together, you get loads of the little bits, the easels, the second and third easel sort of come out and stick out the bottom of the card, and I really wanted it to fit in a C6. So I've kind of totally re-engineered this so that it all fits within the C6 base, so that it's easy to post for us. So just so you know, if you're looking online and you see different ones, you might find that when you've actually put it together, it won't actually fit in an envelope, and you'll have to make an envelope separately for it. Going back to my colored one so that you can see what happens. So you've got your base and you've glued your easel in place. And then I said you've got another card layer, which was 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. And that's going to get glued over the top of your easel, but you only want to have glue on this folded half because it needs to be able to pop up. If I show you, it needs to be able to, at the back, you can see it's only glued halfway so that it can still pop up to create that easel fold. So when that's glued, all I'm going to do is I will cover this part of the card with glue, and then I will stick my card layer on top. Okay, and then that will be able to still stand proud. I just show you from side angle, it'll stand proud. And if you were just making a normal easel card, that would be as much as you would do, and then you'd create a stopper, and that would be a standard easel, a single easel card. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my, I just put, as I say, just glue on the half piece here. And then I'll take my card layer and just layer that so that it's perfectly positioned over the top and there's no border showing apart from that original card base. And then that will be able to stand proud, and as I say, you'll have your back, you can see the back piece of it. So that is the first easel made, and we just need to decorate it with our pattern paper. So I'm using the Snowflake Splendour Suite. So I've cut out some of the nice snowflake paper, and this first one is 3.5 inches by 5 1/4, and that's just going to get glued. Now when we come to actually decorate these card layers, this easel at the back, basically when it's all made up in its sort of, you know, standing position, you'll notice that the bottom of this card is slightly covered by your second easel, and then again your first easel kind of covers a little bit of your second easel. So you just need to be wary of positioning, so that when you're putting sentiments or decorating, that you kind of make it more at the top 2/3 of each of those 2 layers. So I think if you had some like specific pattern paper like the Let It Snow that's got snowmen on it or something like that, for example, or characters on the paper, you would want that up at the top half really, just so that it's visible. I mean, obviously the card front they'll see whenever it comes in the post, but it's just a little tip. I've layered that, and if you want to do the decoration now on that piece, you can. You'll still be able to decorate it once the card is complete, so there's no problem with that. I'm just going to set that to one side, and because I'm going to put snowflakes on mine and I'm not really sure where I want them, I'll wait and sort of put the card together and see what's visible. So I'm going to move on to the second easel. The second easel is your 6 by 3 inch piece, and we're going to score that at 3 and 4 1/2. So again, it's in the center, and then again halfway to create that easel card. So we'll fold and burnish in half, and then we'll fold and burnish in half again. Now I'm just going to talk to you about when you're constructing the easel cards. Quite often when you've made an easel card, just like you can see here, it's sitting proud. It's not actually coming down in the position that you'd like it to be in for an easel, or you've got this nice little mountain. So if you find that it is kind of really standing up, I'll put you on a side view there so you can see. The actual score line that you need to burnish to make that flatten is this half center fold here. It's not the mid one, it's actually this half one. That is the one that determines this sort of sticky upness, for want of a better word. So you really need to just fold and burnish more on the center line, and then you'll find, like now, it's actually sitting a lot less. It's sitting a lot lower down, not springing up on me. So that'll be nice when I actually go to put that in place. It means that that will sit much better. So it's really important that you fold and burnish on that center line. Okay, and then again, I'm going to pop my card front, which is a 3 by 3 inch piece. And I only will put glue on the second half here. And then I will glue this in place. And again, I'm just completely covering it so that you can't see anything, but making sure that obviously it's only on that half so that it can stand proud. So then when it comes up, you've got that. Okay, and then again, I'll get my paper, which is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 square, and I will pop that on the front. So I'll pop that down. So the final easel, the third one, is a little ditty one, and it's basically the card measures 4 by 2 inches. And we're going to score at 2 inches and 3 inches. So 2 is the halfway mark, and then at 3 is basically half again. And then we'll fold and burnish those. And again, as I say, if it's springing up on you, just really go in and burnish on that center score line, and that will make it go a little bit flatter for you. The card front on this one is 2 inches by 2 inches. And again, we're just going to add the glue onto that one half of the card only. And then we'll stick that layer on just to make it perfectly centered. And then again, you've got, when it stands up, you've got that half that isn't glued. And then the piece of paper is really, it's actually very tiny, this one. It is 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, I think. I don't know, should I have the snowflake? Yeah, I think I'll do the snowflake showing on that one. And that's just centered on the front. And you just need to be careful if you've got directional paper that you can see that you put it on the right way around. Okay, so now we've got our 3 easel layers made. You can layer the inside of each of your cards. Okay, so you can actually put a paper layer like a Whisper White layer inside, or a coordinating cardstock layer inside, and you would have to do that before we glue the other easels in place. So let me just show you the difference, and then you can decide if that's something that you want to do. So on my cocktail one, I didn't have a layer, so inside the cards it is just the same cardstock. There's no layer, so they're just blank inside. Okay, and that's absolutely fine. So we can just have those like that, and it's like that. And then if I show you on my second one that I made, I put layers inside, and I'll just show you what that looks like. So with the layers, you kind of get like a two-tone effect. So it's like that. For example, on this one, I could do or Pacific Point, maybe even to really be quite striking. Or you can just do a plain Whisper White layer inside, because obviously you could, just for the coordination really, it does add something to it, definitely, having a second layer inside. You would put your message, you could either have a message written on that first easel, or to be honest, I would put a piece of Whisper White on the back, so on the base, to give your full message. But it's just an option. And can I just say that those layers are exactly the same size as the front paper layers. So if you did want to do the layers on the card inside, you just use exactly the same measurement as we did for each of the DSP. So 5 1/4 by 3 1/2, and I'll just glue that inside. I'm just going to put a darker color this time, just so you can see what it looks like in terms of coordination and the layers. That in. And then in the second easel card, 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, and we'll pop that in. The last one is 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. It definitely does make it a little bit more striking, I think. But you do need to do that before you glue everything in place. Yeah, you should be able to kind of do a dry run and see it's sort of in place. So that's how it's all going to come together. When we come to actually glue it into the card, we're going to measure down from this center fold line, and we're going to measure down the card to place our first easel, and the first easel will be centered with an even border either side. So we're going to come down, and it is 2 inches or 4.5 centimeters if you're measuring in centimeters. So you would make a little mark at, as I've got it here, I'll just do it 4.5. I'm going to make a little mark either side, which I'll rub out afterwards. And I'll just place my ruler like that between those 2 lines, okay? And then what I'll do, now just make sure that you've got the easel the right way round so that you can lift the flap up, because it's going to be glued all across the base. And what we'll do is we'll just pop it up against that ruler, which I've measured, obviously my marker. And I would just eyeball, well, I'm going to just eyeball, but if you want to be really, you know, particular about your side borders, then please, you know, take the time to do that. So I'm just going to put glue all across the back of this. So I'm going to just pop that. I'm going to stand up for this actually, because that's going to be easier for me to eyeball it. And then just pop that down, and then that'll be, make sure it's opening that way. Okay, so that's our first layer. Now, the whole reason, as I was saying earlier, that I sort of rejigged everything when I'd been looking online at different ones was because quite often you'll see that the easels kind of pop out the bottom of the card like this. And I didn't like that. And as I say, I wanted to keep it within the C6 fold. So when you come to do your next layer, you are going to be gluing this little last easel just up to the, not the outside line, but again, that inner card base. You're just going to glue on the edge of that inner card base. And then that means that when all these are closed down, you won't see it. And if you actually glued it in line with the outer card base, it would obviously be poking out. I'll just show you. Okay, so just to make that really clear, we're going to be gluing it right on the edge of the inside card layer. So I don't have a measurement for that because you're literally going to be using your card line as your marker. And then again, you want it to be centered within your second easel. So you want the same distance each side. And just make sure before you glue it in place that you have got it the right way around. So just getting it centered. So I've got a nice border, these 2 sides here, and then making sure that I've got it up to the edge. Okay. And that's the last one, and then you'll find it if you close that one flat, then that one will come across, and then that one will come across, and it'll be completely covered. So there's nothing showing on the outside of the card. So then what all we've got to do is create our stopper and decorate the card. And I just saw this lovely in the Snowflake Wishes stamp set. There's a stamp that says Snowflake Wishes for a Merry Christmas. And because I'm going to be decorating this with the snowflakes, I think that just would be really nice. So really it's all about decorating now. Your stopper basically would be if you put it into the open position so that all your little triangles are all standing up, you would have it so that it's on this sort of probably about, it'll take up half of that base. On this one, I've just used 2 of the little pine cones from the pattern paper, but then on this one, I actually use quite a wide one. So it really depends what your card and the theme is. Look, that's 1 inch. And you don't have to go the full width of your card as either when you're doing your stopper. It doesn't have to go straight across the bottom. So as I said, you could just have it the same width as that first easel card. So as I say, it just depends what you are layering. I've layered my stopper. I've done it on both colours, on the Pacific Point and on the Family Blue, and I'm going to just pop that up on dimensionals. Because you need a little bit of height so that it actually acts as a stopper. Right, so I've popped that on dimensionals, and I'm going to just pop this down. Make sure your stopper is inside the card, doesn't go over that inside layer again, because when the card closes, obviously you want it to be all inside. So that's my stopper there. I've used a Snowflake Wishes. And if any of your cards are popping up, that you know that it's springy, remember just it's that center layer that you need, the center fold line that you need to crease along. Right, I'm now going to decorate and pop some snowflakes. I was supposed to put ribbon on the middle of mine, but I forgot to do it before I glued it in place. I still could actually. I'm actually just going to, I will wrap it around and tape it down, but I'll cover it with the bow. So pop that on there. Bring that round. And have that there. Have that there like that. And then I'll just do a bow separately, a bunny ears bow. And I'll just trim that. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, that's much better. And then I've got some really big snowflakes for that last panel. Oh. And as I say, just remember for that panel, the biggest one, you're going to see most of the stuff on the top 2/3. So don't stick a sentiment like on the bottom here. Well, I suppose you do see it when the person gets the card, so there is a view there. So if you wanted to have a sentiment, you could still have it at the base, but obviously when it's assembled, you won't see it. So that's why on that one, I put my cocktails on the top. So that's that done, and then that and that. I could actually just add a little snowflake on that one as well, I think. Perfect. Right. So yeah, so just on that back panel, you could have a whisper white layer for your message. So that back panel the layer would be 3 3/4 by 5.5. And you could stamp a little sentiment across the middle of that as well. So I've just popped that on the back to put my message, and I've done my snowflakes, just stuck snowflakes on all of them, and I've just had snowflake wishes for Merry Christmas